Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
Hello, this is Jerry and Jamie from LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education. Jerry, we've been in the podcast business for a little over a year, but we learn something new every day. And wouldn't it be great if those who wanted to get into the podcast business could have that experience in high school, in middle school, in elementary school? Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, don't you love it? Yes, absolutely. Giving kids real world experiences. That's what we're going to talk about today. And so Diedre Roemer is here with us, and she is an assistant superintendent. I met her at a conference, and I can say one thing about being in this business for nearly 40 years, I can spot them. I can spot the move. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. Yes. I can spot the movers and shakers, and she is top of mind for me today. I tell you, she is amazing. We started having a conversation, and I really didn't want it to end because she was talking about all the project-based learning that is happening in her district. And she talked, well, we're going to hear everything from beekeeping to podcasting today. Yes, it's amazing, all the things that this district is doing and tying it to the standards. So she even went a step further and said, why should the adults do all the talking? She's bringing some kids on. But what I want to tell you, this is the best part. She wanted to bring some second graders today, but they are too busy. They have their jobs and they are out delivering goods to the community. So we didn't schedule them in time. Don't you love it? We'll get them on later, though. But anyway, welcome to LinkedUp, Diedre. We're so happy to have you here today. Can you tell us a little bit about your district and why you got excited about PBL?
Sure. I am Diedre Roemer, and I proudly serve as the Director of Leadership and Learning for the West Allis-West Milwaukee School District, which means I get to oversee curriculum and instruction, student services and special ed, our mental health work, our principal coaching, our teacher professional development, kind of anything that happens in a classroom are the things that myself and the team that I have the beauty to work with every day get to do. And for us in West Allis-West Milwaukee, we've had a ton of background work in personalized learning. We had a ton of background work in doing a lot of innovative practice in our school district, but we were struggling. We have 19 school sites, and we were struggling to figure out, like, how do you hold something in common at all of those school sites, and at the same time, make sure that there's space for building site-based decisions and classroom-based decisions. And so we started our journey in defining who we were as a school district by aligning our work to equity through the deeper learning competencies. And those come out of the Hewlett Foundation. We didn't make those up ourselves, but they are content mastery, communication, problem solving, collaboration, being self-directed in your work. So those opportunities to own your own learning experience. And then the one that we've spent a lot of time on and continue to focus on all the time is the academic mindset. So that's when our learners feel that sense of belonging so that they want to be a part of that learning community and they want to work hard, right? At the end of the day, getting them passionate about the things that they do at school, that's when we know we're getting it right for them and we're getting it right for the adults who get to serve them every day. So project-based learning is one instructional format that has given us a framework to be able to say, okay, those competencies are these 6 big and broad skills. What does that mean I do in a classroom? Like I can say, I'm working on communication. Well, we're always working on communication. But the project-based learning work gives us a frame. We have a couple of schools that have decided to become universal design for learning schools. That's another instructional framework that, again, gets at that co-designing the learning experience with the learner. And we have several other schools who use different instructional formats. Project-based learning is the one that most of our teachers are finding to be their kind of stride to getting the classroom to be the place that's co-designed with the learners. So we started doing that work about 7 years ago was when we had our first strategic plan aligned around the deeper learning competencies. And then the development of that over time has just been that slow progression to kind of be where we are right now, which are tons of pockets of this work going on every day across our district. And then some growth opportunities to make sure we're getting there everywhere across our district. With 19 school sites, it is not always easy to make sure you're getting everyone on the same page.
Right. And I applaud your district for giving people the agency to do something different. I hear so many school leaders saying they want every school on the same page doing the same thing, but yet we want personalization. So that's a slippery slope because we can't have everyone doing the same thing if we're going to personalize the learning. It sounds like you might have a key to the secret sauce in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know that we have all the answers, that's for sure, but we certainly have tried some things that seem to be getting us on the right page as far as that goes. And part of that, our district office staff is structured really differently than most school districts. I have a team, myself and 6 others, who are our entire curriculum and instruction and student services or special ed team. And we not only have each our areas of expertise, but we actually partner with our schools. So one member of the team has 3 schools, one has 2, and we go there every week for office hours to walk the building with the principals so that we're constantly looking at, okay, if this is the big umbrella of the work we're trying to do, what's the pathway at this school or what's the pathway at this school that allows us to ensure we're staying in the big framework, but doing something that responds to the needs of the staff and the skill set of the staff and the needs of the learners and the families at that school site. I don't have the beauty of working in a classroom with our students every day anymore. So it would be ill-advised for me to be sitting in an office saying, this is what you should definitely do with those learners. I don't know those kids. So we've tried to create a framework where people are getting the big idea, and this is what we're going to hold in common at all of our school sites, and then taking from that and going into what does that mean at this school? And the idea of what we call school supports has really helped that. So they're back at the schools each time, looking at the school improvement plan, trying to figure out what do we need to do to adapt and adjust? What professional development do we need to add that the staff is asking for? So that if we're trying to hit at these big goals, we have strategies built into the plan and professional development.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about, because I've worked with schools and a couple in particular, helping them to implement project-based learning and even making sure that there's at least something sustainable that they do every year. So that way, when they're first graders, they might do garden enhancement, or when they're second graders, they're going to take on the role of keeping the murals up in the class, in the school, just something that's sustainable, something they get to do every year. And then some teachers continue to do others based on their curriculum. But that tends to sometimes be a challenge. You mentioned the professional development. There has to be teacher buy-in for this as well. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. And most teachers see the benefit and get super excited about it. But how do you combat that? How do you help teachers and support them in that with the PD?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because nothing is one size fits all. We have a wide variety of professional development opportunities. Our goal, and my goal in the work that I get to do all the time, is to constantly be modeling what a really solid learner-driven classroom should be, which means that professional development should be a teacher-driven process, and principal coaching and principal leadership meetings should be a student-driven process. So there's a couple of things that we've done over the last couple of years that have helped us quite a bit with that. We start most of our leadership meetings. So that's when I have principals, instructional coaches, assistant principals, deans of students, everybody in our district office team in the same space. And we start most of those meetings. We were in a really good habit of it before the pandemic hit us a little differently. And we just got back into it this last month with a learner panel. So one of our schools will bring 4 or 5 students, and we ask them a lot of questions around their learner experience. And the students always tell us something that we're doing really, really well. And then they give us something to work on. And then the schools partner up with each other and start talking about, what did we hear that we're doing well that we want to keep? That's a constant for us. What did we hear from students that we could be doing differently? And then what's our entry point into bringing that back to staff? That is then if the principals and the leaders understand what it feels like to have a learner-driven experience, the likelihood that they're going to be creating that more and empowering their teachers more, much higher. We start the year each year with usually something called a deep dive, where we're in small groups out in the community, learning something about ourselves, about our community, about how to do our work differently. And then we bring that back into our schools. And on our teacher professional development days, we just had professional development week, actually, because we had our professional development day on November 1st, where we had a lot of things going on. And then we had coaches here for the week who are some of our project-based learning coaches, that not only do you train people in the work, but you have to be able to support them in their space. Somebody has to be able to coach it. You have to co-plan with the staff. You have to be ready to be in that classroom and give each other feedback on what you're seeing. So we work with a team from Blue Dot Education who does a lot of our project-based learning training, as well as we have several staff now that are trained as trainers. So that if there's a teacher that's got an entry point, hey, I want to try something, immediately it's what support can I provide for you, with that safety net of feeling like if this doesn't work, you know what, you're going to learn a ton and we'll just try it again the next time. And on top of that, we also had staff we have teacher showcase on our professional development days. So we had 42 staff who just opened up their space and said, here is one thing I tried with students to become more learner centered. And that included our culinary teacher trying to show staff how making like a chopped like session where he gave them a box of random ingredients and tied it back to a standard. And in 30 minutes, they had to create something and reflect on that, was a learner driven experience. We had kindergarten classrooms talking about embedding SEL into the classroom. We have an urban mountain biking club where I am here at our project-based learning high school that is sponsored by Trek, actually. So the teacher who sponsors that club took 12 educators riding around the city talking about how teaching and learning doesn't have to stay in the walls of the school, and modeling for them, teacher to teacher, one thing they could try. And that's kind of been our big focus. Is you look at sometimes project-based learning or some of those other instructional formats, and it always feels like, oh, I have to be designing like a rocket launch in order to do this work, right? No, it does not mean that. It means that you're co-designing something that's of interest to that learning community, whether the interest comes from the students or the teacher or whoever in the space brings it in, and that you're doing small things to shift towards that co-designing experience. And that we found to be pretty successful as a way to constantly give teachers entry points, just like we want them to do in classrooms, and then figure out how do we continue to support them to grow in their own practice.
You know, you made a really important point. You talked about, obviously, the input of those who are a part of this, right? So the students, the teachers, administrators, and, you know, these philosophies go back to John Dewey days, right? This is what he said we should be doing. And obviously there is such a benefit for students as they hit the real world, even for graduation rates, because kids want to get up and do something, want to care about something. So, and you talked about the problem-based learning being in interest. It's also sometimes based in need. But those stakeholders, having everyone involved, what about the experts in the field? Are they part of your cabinet that you have as input?
All the time. So our learners, we have a honey producing bee farm here at our project-based learning high school. And that started because one of our teachers who works with students who are deaf and hard of hearing kind of casually said to me one day, hey, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I run a bee farm on like the weekends. And I thought, I did not know that about you. And she said, do you have any students who might be interested in doing this? And I thought, I bet I could find some students who are interested in doing that. So she now advises them. She doesn't work at the school. She doesn't have any students at our project-based learning high school, but she became their outside expert that guided them in the whole process all the way through. Here's how you might need to get a permit from the city because you're about to put a bee farm in the middle of a neighborhood, right? Here is how you would get a permit to sell things at the farmer's market. And then we have people constantly advising students on that. Most of our projects start with some kind of launch where the expert explains their process, and then we go from there. We had a team of students at our intermediates. We have 4 what we call learning communities at one of our intermediate schools. And so there's 6th through 8th grade flexible learning communities with about 100 to 125 students in each, and 5 to 6 teachers in there, just really co-designing the day with students. And the 4 communities decided to do a joint launch and a joint project. So we have new development in our city around creating murals and how they represent the identity of the community. And the students drove all around West Allis and talked to experts who had been a part of creating those murals and explained all of those pieces of what goes into that. And then each one of those communities has been making their own mural to represent who they are as a learning community over the last couple of weeks. So the launch is a lot of times where we start with some of the, okay, this is what it would look like if I did that for a job, or this is what it would look like if I was to become a banker. We had national authors zooming in with a group of social studies and health class at a high school who decided to co-design a lesson together. So the social studies teacher and the health teacher got together and said, I don't know, what would that look like? And so they designed something, and then they had the author from that zoom in with them to just give the students that feeling of, I do this for a job, and this is what that really looks like. Even examples like today, we have kids interested in podcasting. Well, I'm not a podcaster. I certainly could get on a Zoom and practice podcasting with someone, but you bring in the outside experts who can help them live the experience and then learn how to do it for themselves. So we have tons of experts that work with our students. In March 2020, when we had the required physical school closing is what I like to call it, because school kept going. The building just wasn't open. We moved our practice to be a 4K through 12th grade passion project. I was watching some of what our students were doing online with their families, and I thought, oh, kids are learning really important skills right now that maybe we capture and become part of the learning experience. And we had this one young man who was fascinated with armor, and he wanted to learn about like when you wear armor and what you use it for. So the teacher connected him with somebody in the armed forces who got on a Zoom with this young man, and he put on his plastic armor while this gentleman from the armed services put on each piece of his and explained what each piece of it did. If I could have bottled the look on that child's face, I would be a bazillionaire selling that feeling. It was amazing. So much of the work does involve outside experts. We try really hard to connect that to local people as well. So we have tons of experts right in our own community. We have staff that do things outside of teaching and learning that develop expertise. We have small businesses in our area that help us develop our expertise. And so we try really hard to connect to as many local community networks as possible, because it's shocking what kids in school don't even know about their own community right around them.
That's true. And Diedre, you have made a great segue into talking to the students, but I do want to ask you one question, which is probably the elephant in the room anytime you talk about this. You've been doing this for 7 years, so I would suspect the answer is very positive, but how are your test scores doing this kind of learning?
Well, just before the pandemic, when we started this work 7 years ago, we had on the state report card system, 3 what were qualified as failing schools, a few schools that were in the meets few expectations, and only 1 that was in the advanced category on that system. Just before March of 2020, we had no failing schools, nobody in the yellow, and 7 to 8, I think, actually, if I remember correctly, that were in that advanced category. And we took a backslide last year, just like everybody else did. Absolutely. For us, kind of one of the biggest measurements, and I have every confidence that our learners and our staff, we'll get right back there. Like we've got this. But we hit a backslide like many of the communities around us. And I serve this unbelievably beautiful, diverse community that includes about 65% of our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch or come from backgrounds of economic disadvantage. And COVID has hit that community disproportionately tougher than other communities. So we're in recovery mode a bit. But for us, a lot of it is whether our 12th graders and our 10th graders and our 11th graders can tell the story about how school helped them find their pathway. When all of the kids can say, the experience I had in public school let me define how to live life on my own terms, that's the measurement I am way more interested in than the test score. And the test scores are important, like academic growth, hugely important. Content mastery is one of the deeper learning competencies for sure. But the story that a student who needs us, and all students need us, can say about their learned experience and then their ability to go out and design their own plan, amazing. We have a charter school for school-age parents, which is unusual. We're one of the only ones, and it's run by this unbelievably amazing woman who is just it was such a pleasure to have in our community and such a beauty that I get to support. But every single one of those learners leaves that school with a plan. Most of them end up in post-secondary education, which if you've had a child at 14 or 15 or 16 is unusual, right? They may not perform the best in the world on a standardized test, but we've created a life plan for them that actually has way more impact on them 20 years from now than that moment.
Absolutely. Well, Diedre, let's talk about who are the special guests that you're going to have on that we can talk to about all of this. You've given us a great backdrop so that we understand what's going on, but now we get to talk to the participants. And who do we have with us?
So it is my honor to introduce Nikolai and Sage, who are going to be joining us today, who are students at Dotkey, which is our project-based learning high school in the West Allis-West Milwaukee School District. So Nikolai, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone what grade you're in and how long have you been at Dotkey?
So my name's Nikolai. I am a freshman. I'm in 9th grade, and I've been here for, I think, a few months now. Started in September. So, yeah, I've been here for a few months, and I've been really enjoying this school. I think it's real cool how they're doing everything here, and I think, they're doing a real great job. So I really like it here.
Awesome. And Sage, if you can introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Sage. I'm in 9th grade, so I'm a freshman. I've been here since the start of the school, so in September, and I think that the teachers and staff are doing really good with controlling everything and making it so we have a family, but still having education at the same time.
Oh, so that sounds like part of the success, because I've been tracking this conversation and trying to think about why this is so successful. So between the student, the real world, authentic experiences you guys get to have, the say in what you get to do and how the teachers are helping with that, teachers and student driven. And then also, obviously, having coaches and ongoing support that way. And I think, Diedre, your enthusiasm and guidance is definitely part of the success. But also, Sage, it sounds like building relationships is a really key component to the success, it sounds like.
It really is, because the teachers make it so then we feel like we're safe here and we feel like we have support and guidance through what we want to do and what we want to create.
So Sage, can I ask you a follow-up question? I love that you feel safe and you feel supported. Why is this school so different from the learning experiences that you've had in the past? And you've talked a little bit about the family building. Tell me about the academics. How is that different?
Okay, so instead of making it the teacher sitting up front, while they're teaching the lesson, they actually walk around asking if we need help, and it's much smaller classrooms, so they're able to get around to all of us. And if we feel stuck on something, we can go to them asking for help and asking like if they could guide us to the right direction. So we follow up with them every step we take in the process of creating whatever we want to do, because it's a project-based learning. So we can make projects like wood burning or like podcasts.
And so can you and Nikolai talk a little bit about when you first came to DECI? So you've chosen this for high school as opposed to choosing a more comprehensive high school. And we are doing a lot of this work at our comprehensive high schools as well. That relationship-driven part of the work, that is a core component of what we work on in West Allis-West Milwaukee. But when you got to DECI, you also took a course called PBL 101. Or Project-Based Learning 101 that helped you understand what your role in this was versus what the teacher's role in this was. And either one of you can answer. What was it like to really understand the process of the learning?
I feel like it, when I was learning the whole process, it felt like more of, instead of you just going to school, sitting there listening, you're going to school to, do what you want in the future, like I feel like that's what high school should be about. It's not like you go there and just, read a book and do whatever. You go there, do what you want, make innovations, try out new things, and that's what you could really do at this school. And that's why I kind of chose here, is because, I don't want to just sit there. I want to go there, and I want to go to school, make something new, try something new, see what I want to do in the future. So it's like students and staff kind of have like, they both are learning. It's not just, they're repeating the same thing over and over. They're learning along with you. And, everybody, it's kind of new to everybody. Even if staff have been here since DECI started, they're still learning new things. So it kind of makes us feel like we belong more because, we're not the only ones learning here.
That's great. And Nikolai, what is it that is your project that you want to learn more about?
I have, Ms. Roemer has actually one of my projects that she wants to show. I made that in quarter one. It's soap that I made for B's class, and I could tell you the process if you would like. So I tried to find a video, and me and my teacher had some troubles with finding a video, and what materials we had were different from what I could find on videos on YouTube and stuff. So I kind of just winged it, and I kind of switched out some material. So I took me and the janitor here, Doug, worked together, and he got a pot and a coffee tin, and he started boiling the water with the coffee tin in the sitting in the water. So it's like a double boiler. And I took about a pound of glycerin, put it in there. And then when it was not completely melted, but still, mostly melted, I put about 4 ounces of honey and 0.32 ounces of essential oils. One of them was forest and one of them was sea breeze. So I call it forest breeze, and it smells really good. And I put 3 of them have lavender and 3 of them have rose petals. So there's some flowers in there too, and it works good, smells good. I'm proud of it. I kind of just made it my own way, thought of, what to do, and it came out good. So.
You've got some marketing skills in there too. I love the naming that you have in there. I see that you're in 2 different rooms. What are those rooms that you're in? And the other question I have to this is, you have your regular classes as well. Do you have like content-driven classes? Is there a percentage of your day? So what does your day look like? What are these rooms you're in? Sage, let's start with you.
Okay, so I'm in the set right now, and the set is where we can film videos, take pictures. Basically, it can be a podcast room. It can be used for the green screen right behind me. So for actually some of our classes that I took in Q1 and some of the ones I'm taking now, we had to use the green screen for some of our projects. So there's, of course, like, you can't see them, but there's seats. So either we could do like a little play, or we could just record something and we can put it on the projector and play it on the green screen.
And Sage, that's part of your digital storytelling class, right? Which counts as an English credit. So parts of it are Mr. Lynch actually teaching you about the writing process. And parts of it are, there are days when he is actually giving a bit more of a lecture or guiding the process more so that you understand the academic content of it. It's just most of the time is around driving the need to know how to do that because you're about to go produce something that's yours.
So it's authentically placed. That content is authentically placed into the course. I got it. Okay. All right. Nikolai, where are you?
So I'm in the studio. This is where people can kind of come in. I know there's the class Shark Tank, which is kind of like the TV show. You know, people can bring up, you know, business ideas and whatnot. And we have like back there, the shirts. Students can make their own shirts. And I think Miss Wardlow has that one. And then we have there's a whiteboard right there with questions for businesses for Shark Tank. We got a bunch of different materials like yarn and whatever. So people can pretty much make anything they want here. So it's kind of just, you know, a place where people can maybe think of a product, think of a business, think of just maybe a little thing they just want to create, you know, try something new. They can come in here and, you know, figure out what they want to do.
Sorry, yeah. Part of that design process is always where I am sitting is called the hub. And we post a lot of the statements of intent. So part of the design process is talking about which standards, which academic standards you think you're going to master in the course of this project. And so for some of the kids, lots of the math and science courses are doing things with the bee farm and figuring out things like that. Our aquaponics lab, where they're managing pH balance and doing all of the things associated to the standards for that course. But that's part of your project planning, right? Is that you have to talk about what are you actually going to know how to do at the end of this unit of instruction? It's not sit in a room and just make stuff that you're interested in all the time. There's that huge piece of the teaching and learning that goes into it. And then for you guys, you have to do a lot of reflection, right? So at the end of it, you have to say, yeah, you're nodding very hard on that one. There's a lot of personal reflection built into it so that you're saying, hey, this is what I learned, not only about myself, but about something I might be interested in and want to go and do. And then also about the academic content that you master during that time.
So making the learning visible and having them display their intent and reflect on it really does make it visible and so much more meaningful to the students to go back and see where they came from and how they're going. Nikolai, I have a question for you. You created this soap. Do you sell it? Can people buy it? I'm interested.
We are planning on taking it to the farmers market around here, and it's a part of I think it's Burton's bee business. So we're going to be selling honey. We have some kind of pendant which has honey in it, and we have my soap as well is going to be sold there. So yeah, we are going to eventually sell it probably somewhere during the spring. So
oh, fantastic. That's great. So you're learning marketing and selling as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of my another favorite part of this school is not only are you just learning that one thing, but you're learning a few different parts in that one class. So you're just learning a bunch of different things in one class. And it's just, I don't know, I find it really awesome.
And did we hear that you're interested in podcasting as well?
Yeah, I am interested in podcasting. I kind of have an idea of, I kind of just want to maybe, talk about my thoughts, try new things, share out, different ideas, basically, maybe just bring everything that's in my mind out to the public. And I think sometimes it could be therapeutic in some way. If I want to get off my chest, kind of do it in a podcast. So.
Absolutely.
Terrific. What about you, Sage? Through your exploration, what are you finding you're interested in that you think you might want to do?
Well, it's the same thing as Nikolai. Like, podcasting is kind of a way for me to express how I feel and express like what's going on in my head about all the different situations like going on around like our city or even like around the world, because it's a way for me to like reflect on myself and reflect on how far everyone and everything has come since like we've started doing something.
Absolutely. So do you both plan to stay at this high school next year and the following years, or are you thinking this is a better fit for you? What are your thoughts as you move forward as a learner?
I'm definitely staying here till graduation.
Yeah, we kind of like to come there to go to school.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then some of the students that attend our project-based learning high school, because there are some of our students who are musicians and are taking our orchestra programs. We have an amazing music program here in West Allis-West Milwaukee as well. Lots of our students go on to post-secondary education on music scholarships and come back to the community and perform. So we have some students who attend DACI for part of the day, and then they go take a more traditional orchestra class at a comprehensive high school. We have students who are taking world languages, because we don't have as many world languages here at DACI. And so they'll go to the comprehensive high school and take some of those courses. And then we have students out in work-based experiences or participating in our CNA program. So they get licensed as a certified nursing assistant upon graduation. And then we have some right now working on that in culinary as well. So the culinary students actually come here for parts of the day. So parts of the day are super flexible, where students are coming and going and really designing a pathway for them that works for them. Now, Nikolai and Sage, I'm going to ask you about one more thing. So we started the year. So this is the first year that ninth graders could choose DACI. So it used to just be, it was our alternative high school. So it was kids who needed credit recovery help and those types of things. And we still serve lots of students who need our support in different ways here at DACI and back at our comprehensive high schools. But this is the first year that it's truly been. Last year, we renamed ourselves a project-based learning high school. And this is the first year ninth graders could come. So there was a lot of learning curve. And the way that we decided to do that was to introduce this project-based learning 101 course that was written by Kaylee Bitters and a team here, one of the amazing instructors. And then you guys had a school-wide project that you started the school year with to make sure that everybody had a true understanding of standards-driven project-based learning. Who wants to talk about that one?
I could go. So, I know in Mr. Fromm's we had a $10 and under project, and I think that project wasn't the best one out of them. I know my health class and B's projects were definitely way better, but my DACI 101 was kind of just a painting I wanted to try out, because I feel like art is another thing I might want to get into. So I made a painting where I kind of mixed some colors and shaded them differently, and I kind of just want to experiment with painting a little bit. And I did find it enjoyable, so I think art definitely might be something I might do. So,
and Nikolai, or I'll jump over to Sage. Were you part of the Bucks project at the beginning of the school year?
Yes.
Yeah. So Sage, do you want to talk about that one?
Sure. Okay. So basically, the Bucks reached out to us about helping them with Giving Tuesday. So we came up with ideas, and each advisory came up with like different ideas together. So for my advisory, at least, we came up with 3 different places that the Bucks could go to help. So it was the Women's Center, the Animal Shelter, and the Hunger Task Force. So we were thinking that they could help them in ways that they needed to be helped. So with the Hunger Task Force, we thought that we could help them like package food or like give them food that like they would need or something like that. And we just did it as a school, and we later presented to the Bucks like everything that we wanted to do, and they put all of our ideas together and are going to be doing something for Giving Tuesday soon.
So Giving Tuesday is a national campaign that's about an organization, right, collecting money for a local charity or doing a drive around something. And the Milwaukee Bucks are looking to do some work with schools. So Ms. Hayes and Mr. Gels, the deeper learning coach and the principal here, they made some connections to the Bucks. And then you guys each got to design what you thought the Bucks should do for Giving Tuesday. And then you had to present it to a panel of experts, right? So 4 weeks into your high school experience, you had to stand up on the big stage, or a group from your advisory did. And the students had made marketing materials for Giving Tuesday. They had created t-shirts to brand it as a particular thing. They had giveaways, and they had to stand up and articulate why that meant something to our community and why they thought that was the thing the Bucks should do. And then, like you said, the Bucks are following up and they're working with some of those students. So it was 2 representatives of the Bucks and myself, and then somebody else from our leadership and learning team that were the panel of experts in that moment, kind of hearing that and then giving you guys feedback that you got to take back to your classrooms and improve the process of your work.
Oh, so incredible. I want to ask Nikolai and Sage too. One of the things we always hear about is student engagement. On a scale from 1 to 10, where you are and what you're working on now. If 1 is you don't care, you don't do it, you don't pay attention, and 10 is you're engaged, you want to learn more, you're moving forward, where would you say you are as far as student engagement in this PBL school? Nikolai, let's start with you.
Definitely a 10. I'm really
a 10?
Everything here. I'm always paying attention here. I don't know. It's just real great here, and I just make sure I'm focused on everything. So definitely a 10.
That is what every school leader and parent wants to hear. Sage, how about you?
I'm definitely a 10 too, because it's like I'm so focused on doing my work because I'm actually having fun at this school, and it's in a way that I'm still learning something, but the teachers and the staff are still making it fun, so then we don't get bored and we don't want to slack off and fail.
So can I ask you a follow-up question? Were you a 10 before?
At first, like when we first started this school, it was like a 6. But now that I'm actually like learning stuff and getting to actually find what I want to do more, I feel like it just brought me up to a 10.
Yeah. Sage, would you have called yourself a 10 when you were in intermediate school?
No.
No? What would you be there?
Even though you went to a really good intermediate school, if you did that here as well. But this is different for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That engagement piece is huge. So huge.
We need authentic real world learning through PBL to have that experience for every student, only because it not only prepares them best for the future, of course, but also it's that true engagement, as you both have identified. I bet your days go by super quickly because you're doing what interests you. Your learning is driven by your interest. And I love, Nikolai, what you said before. You and your teachers are learning along together each and every day. And I really think that element of curiosity that is embedded, that drives your learning is so imperative. And the two of you are very lucky to have this experience. And I'm hoping that this is a model and as you said, Diedre, not every school has to be like this, but at least if some of these elements can be embedded in all schools, we are going to have a very bright future ahead with these leaders in schools. So I am so excited to share this podcast and everything the three of you have taught us and have to share with everyone. And thank you so much for joining us to tell your stories. And we hope to have you back and hear some more. I mean, you're just freshmen now. My gosh, think of what's going to be happening in the next 2 and 3 years. So we want to hear all about it in years to come. Enjoy your special education that you have. This is really, really fantastic. You're very lucky.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
We also, one thing I like to mention is, of course, we offer PD through choice boards, and we have all of our podcasts in different themes. So this will be one of them. But also, we have jumped into Clubhouse. If you haven't, check it out, and we're going to set up a time to invite you to have other people ask you questions about this podcast and things that you're sharing, so we can continue this convo in Clubhouse. So we'll give you more information about that. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube.